LiberalViewer presents.
So, former Justice of the Supreme Court John Paul Stevens was he had an interview on This Week with George Stephanopoulos, and John Paul Stevens is out promoting a book where he proposes, I think it's five or six amendments to the U.S. Constitution, one of which is an amendment to the Second Amendment, adding 5 words to the Second Amendment, which I'll discuss a little more after I show the final clip for the show over here.
Stevens' most controversial idea, adding 5 words to the Second Amendment. Here's how it would change. The right of the people to keep and bear arms when serving in the militia shall not be infringed.
Wouldn't that take away any limits to what a legislature could do to the rights of gun owners?
I think that's probably right, but I think that's what should be the rule, that it should be legislatures rather than judges who draw the line on what is permissible.
And you think that's because it's clearly this is what was intended?
Oh, I do think that was what was intended, because there was a fear among the original framers that the federal government would be so strong that they might destroy the state militias. The amendment would merely prevent arguments being made that Congress doesn't have the power to do what I think is in the best public interest.
But to be clear, if Congress passed a national ban on individual gun ownership, that would be constitutional under your amendment.
I think that's right.
So yeah, there's former Justice of the Supreme Court John Paul Stevens saying that he wants to add those 5 words to the Second Amendment to give it the meaning that it probably had when it was originally written. And I actually agree with him. I used to argue about the Second Amendment online all the time before the Supreme Court in 5-4 decisions kind of decided it, or at least as long as those precedents remain in effect, that there's an individual right to keep and bear arms outside of militia service protected by the Second Amendment, which I don't really believe is what the Second Amendment originally meant. There are 27 words in the Second Amendment, and the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed is the second half, and the first half is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Those are the first 13 words, and I think they modify the second half to mean basically what former Justice John Paul Stevens said the Second Amendment should be amended to mean, to clear up what was cleared up the other way by these 5-4 decisions that I think went the wrong way, at least according to my reading of the meaning of the Second Amendment back when the Bill of Rights was originally passed. But I want to know what you think. Was the Second Amendment only meant to protect state militias from federal interference, or was it meant to protect an individual right to keep and bear arms? And whatever you think the text means, is an individual right to keep and bear arms an important civil liberty in our modern society?
I YouTube, you decide.